problem I have with the avoid divorce programs is that it's still coming from that selfish place. It's going to just at best create a fake reconciliation. Sure, you learn what to do, what to say to get your partner back right now, but you're not really giving the right depth of changes for her to actually want to be there.
Fundamentally, you are actually saving lives. You're reversing lives from really just terrible, awful, living, waking nightmares to creating a life for yourself that is beyond your wildest dreams and actually being able to create real happiness.
When someone has rightly written you off, for them to say, you've changed, you really have changed, my God, it's quite an amazing thing to hear.
Hey guys, Geoffrey here. So today we have Mark, and Mark's story is a great example of number one, he took a long time, I think, to join the program. And I think it's a great example of what you can do when you stop trying to do and grow yourself and get yourself out of your pit yourself and actually seek out the right program and seek out the right help. But also what happens when you seek out the right help and how fast your life can change, not only just in your relationship, but also in your career, in your personal life as well. And so, for a lot of our clients, this journey starts with the journey of reconciliation, but it quickly becomes the journey of self-discovery and self-growth. And once you achieve that self-growth, you realize that reconciliation is just a natural artifact of that. It's like shooting for the stars. Once you try to shoot for the stars, reaching the moon is just super easy. So I guess, Mark, let me go back to you. So you mentioned, to start here, your 15-year relationship had hit rock bottom when joining our program. Can you describe what day-to-day life was like with your partner during that really difficult time? And what day-to-day life like was for you individually, personally as well?
Okay. Yeah, of course. I think day-to-day life was just like a living, waking nightmare for both of us in different ways. We would fight constantly, our lives with our work and what we had taken on, and our son, a young child, it can just complete inability to see eye to eye and manage anything, knowing that at any second things could blow up and that we would have a disagreement and not see eye to eye. I was completely, just dumbfounded by how I wasn't getting any support, it felt, and I wasn't being cared for, looked after, and all of the problems that I was facing and all of the hardships and all of the responsibilities that I had and were taken on were just seemingly, that I had no support from my partner. And she was, and in that time when we really hit rock bottom, she had completely vacated the relationship. She had given up long before, and I was blind to that. I hadn't seen that. And she had tried absolutely everything and been, really just a really amazing partner to me for such a long time and had nothing back for so long. So we were in a really, really, we had seemingly had all the things we wanted. And in fact, that was the inflection point, potentially, to your question, that made me realize that I needed to do this and that I needed to change things. We seemingly had got to the point that we said that we wanted to get to in life, with a few things that we'd been working towards. And then when we got there, that was really when we hit rock bottom, because I suppose we realized that we were deeply unhappy and that our relationship was deeply broken.
Yeah. I think this is a classic example of people, I think, in today's relationship age, they see money, possessions, material wealth, success as like, hey, if you get money, if you get success, your relationship will be so much easier. It'll be so much better. Everything will be fine. But I think you're a classic example of, nah, that's just a start, right? Because you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs too, you have the higher pillars. And the same thing for our relationship too. I think I actually became the most depressed after I made money.
Yeah.
I actually had the most problems after I had money, because then, before your success and before money, you kind of look at your unhappiness and you go, well, I'm happy right now, but once I get this, I'll be much happier. But then once
Yeah.
you get this and you realize you're still unhappy, that's when your
Yes.
excuses no longer have anywhere to go. And you're like, oh shit. And then
Absolutely.
now you see the higher pillars that you can attain,
Yeah.
right? It seems like your journey is exactly the same.
100% for me, the things that spoke to me very early on from what I'd seen of your work and your program were that I clearly had a very much an outcome focused brain, outcome focused approach to life, and that I was, looking for the next finish line, and I wasn't interested or took any joy from the journey, but I wanted to reach these so-called achievements, these peaks of these mountains, but could derive zero enjoyment from that, and was then looking to the next thing to kind of fill an empty void. And it was
Mm.
just the culmination of that, and that was after many, many years of, I think, my partner seeing that behavior, seeing that pattern play out, and just being extremely supportive in that, always putting me first, and getting to a point where she could do nothing else but start to withdraw.
Yeah. And I kind of think about a Chinese finger trap when you say that, right? It's
Yeah.
because relationships are very much a falling outcome. And much of life is actually a very falling outcome. I think, obviously, you are successful in what you do, but even success in career is very much a falling outcome too. It's that, if you approach success or wanting to get success in anything in life from the point of, I want that, even though you've been told you should do that, like vision boards and stuff like that, if your main motivator is to get that outcome and you don't enjoy the process and you don't learn to enjoy that process of getting there, you ironically will never get there. And so a lot of people use a striving approach to get there, right? The more they try to get the finger out to get success, the more they get stuck. While
Yeah.
the real the real the real thing you should do is to lean into the process and just allow that outcome to fall to you. And so this
Absolutely.
is a key difference between how I think our program approach works and how a lot of other people's program approaches work. Is that, right now we see an influx of new coaches who are promising the avoid divorce, who are promising the stop divorce, who are promising the quick results kind of game. And the shame is that people are falling for that because they
Mm.
think, yeah, if I want to reconcile, then sure, I need to have a lot of conversations about reconciliation. I need to force the conversation to be about reconciliation. But here we're saying something different, which is, oh, you want reconciliation? Then you actually need to not focus on reconciliation, but self growth. And so people are like, wait, so you want me to reconcile, but in order to reconcile, you want me to not focus on reconciling. I think for people, that makes absolutely no sense, but it makes perfect sense if you understand that relationships are very much a falling outcome kind of thing. And you need
Yes.
to love the process of growth and growth itself. And
Yeah.
then the outcomes can fall to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's for anyone that has got themselves this far along in life and got themselves to this position, it's almost inevitable that their outlook will have had to have been the opposite of that to then be reversed. And that's the paradox as well that they're living, because all of their beliefs, their whole belief system is based on the inverse of what you need to do, essentially. So reversing that and rewiring that is the job in hand. But of course, it feels so counterintuitive when all you know is the opposite, and all you've been taught, from experience or your own life, is the opposite.
Yeah. So for people who are in this position, you most likely have seen these other programs kind of touting these same kind of like quick fixes, stop divorce, whatever it is. Just know that if you take that path, people often think that, okay, so let's say I don't join the right program and I join the wrong program. People think that it's like you getting a light version of what you could get.
Mm.
But I want to point out that when you join the wrong program, it's not just you getting a light version, it's you actually going the opposite direction, right? So we see so many people, and I think you mentioned this even in your write up to me. It's like, I wish I'd found you sooner and I actually
Mm.
invested in you sooner, because it could have saved me so much time. And there's so many people who have joined other programs who came to us, like when they first joined the other program, their status, their whole relationship was so salvageable. But then they joined the other program and it just destroyed and tanked it. And by the time they join my program, they're almost like on the brink of death, kind of thing, like personally, but
Yeah.
also in the relationship. And it's just so
Yeah.
much harder to like bring it to life if you made that wrong move. So just be careful of that, guys, right? I'm not saying this for you to buy my program. I'm just saying this to protect you guys, because to be honest, it's kind of tiring and sickens me a bit to see so many people being pointed in the wrong direction these
Yes.
days, especially.
To that, absolutely. To that point, you know, the length of time that it took me, and I'm sure others watching this video in the same way that I watched videos like exactly like this, that helped me understand what I needed to do. The thing that deterred me was my own perfect product outlook, my own perfect product illusion, that I was so deeply still tied to the idea that I probably didn't need this and I could probably do things myself because that's how I'd always succeeded in the past. But it was the very thing that I needed to address to start amongst multiple other things that I needed to address. And if I'd have had the understanding to address it sooner, it would have been so much better for me. But it was, again, so paradoxical, because the very thing that I thought I could use to help me was the very thing that was actually holding me back and stopping me from progressing.
Yeah. And that's the final thing I will say about this point is that, you know, when a client comes into the program, we always say to them, learning hard skills and learning soft skills, like this is very different, right? Um, Especially learning how to achieve falling outcomes and how to get striving outcomes is very different. So a lot of men who come to us, they're very successful in their career. They're very successful in terms of like their fitness, right? A lot of these things sometimes is very much a striving outcome thing. The more willpower you add to something, the more thought you add to something, the more you get it. But when it comes to, you know, getting the same outcomes in falling parts of your life, like people who come here insomniac, for example, people who come here with relationship issues or this inability to stay present in their life, in their relationship, they're trying to use that striving approach to get to sleep, to get to their relationship, but the striving approach is actually going to get you further. That Chinese finger trap again. So just watch out for that paradox, guys. You noticed you said something interesting, and I want to see how this reconciles in your mind, Mark, which is you said on the one hand, a big part of why you were really unhappy in your marriage, in your relationship at that point in time, was that your partner you felt like wasn't giving enough to you. But then you then said, she was checked out because of what I did, right? So how did your brain go from that victim blaming of she's not giving enough for me to the more evolved brain of, okay, she's not giving enough to me because I'm also not giving enough to her to allow her to give to me?
Yeah.
Show me the evolution. Show us the evolution.
Yeah. So from the very early stages of the program, and in fact, before even joining the program and watching the content that you put out to start to allow people to see how you can help them, I started to realize and understand. The first thing that clicked for me was I'm the problem. So that happened very early on, and I was like, oh, after 15 years of thinking that I was you know, pretty good, and that all of my actions in the way that I went about relationships and life and work were optimal to an extent. I had realized that after a course of events that had happened over a 2-year period, that I needed to take a look in the mirror, and that you know, potentially some of these things were down to me, you know, and that was a bit of a revelation. And then from there, through the early parts of the program, understanding all of the ways in which you can create illusions for yourself to just survive and get through the day, and to so that you don't get hurt, so that you don't feel pain, and all of these things, right? These defense mechanisms, these illusions. And one of them was the equal blame illusion, where I would say, which is obviously a big part of the program, where I would say, well, look, yeah, sure, maybe I wasn't perfect, but she could be blamed. She's to blame too, and we should both take responsibility, and therefore both work together on fixing this. And when she was like, I am trying, and I would say, but you're not trying hard enough, that the point was that I couldn't understand, and in the beginning parts, reconcile the fact that she was actually trying, she was giving everything, and I still wasn't giving anywhere near enough. In my mind, I was giving everything and she wasn't giving anywhere near enough. What I realized was, over the course of learning about all of those victim mindsets, all of the ways in which I would damage relationships and I would damage my own life, my own capacity for growth, was that taking responsibility for yourself and wanting more than anything to be happy in yourself, to then become an overflowing cup for others around you, is probably the biggest gift you can give yourself and everyone else. So it then the focus and the impetus comes completely off of your partner or anyone else and expectations of what they might give you, and the whole focus switches to what can you give everyone else to create an environment of happiness. And when that starts to happen and you start to see responses, it's like the most amazing thing. And you want it to become your life and your lifestyle, to do it innately, to do it reflexively without any thought. It's just who you are. And that's the journey. That's a far more exciting journey than probably anything else you can ever write for yourself.
You know, a lot of people, because they talk to me about, because my wife knows I'm pretty much a recluse, right? Like, I can stay at home and just not see people, talk to people for a very long time. And
Yeah.
she asked me the other day, like, do you feel lonely? And I was like, not really, because I actually enjoy being in my head. I actually enjoy being in my thoughts. And it wasn't always like that, though. There was a point when I was always looking for external sources of things to make me feel happier, to make me feel fulfilled, right? Because I really didn't like being in my thoughts. I was very depressed in my thoughts. I really didn't like being in my own head. And now that I've learned how to be okay in my own head, I realize that, whenever I show up to relationships, to friendships, to anything, like you said, I come from that overflowing cup where whenever I hang out with a friend, it's never, the question is never about what can they do for me, how can they give me fulfillment, how can they make me happier, but it's, I already made myself happy. I'm very content with myself, and whenever I go to other people, it's how can I help you. So and when you become this overflowing cup, that becomes a natural question that you ask, is not what can you do to fill my own cup, because like I don't need that. But because your cup is overflowing, you're always actively looking for cups to fill, right?
Totally. And to your point prior, I feel like it massively links then back to the falling outcome, because when you become an overflowing cup, when you become someone that wants to give, the what you get in return in time is a surrendering and a falling outcome from others that they want to give back naturally, innately, and they want to create a cyclical kind of relationship that grows and gets stronger and better over time. And when things do come, like forks in the road or issues or problems, your ability to deal with them in a way that maybe they've never seen before, and maybe you've never done before, you've never seen yourself capable of doing before, breeds even more safety and trust for them. So then you get past little things that might have previously been huge blow-ups before, become tiny little potholes that you navigate through and create stronger relationships from. They're opportunities actually to create growth in relationships rather than inevitable breakups.
Yeah, it's so good. And it it resonates well with me, because that was the same pattern that I had. I'm sure it's the same pattern that a lot of people had, which is, if you're not an overflowing cup and you constantly are looking for other people to fill your cup, it's almost like there's a hole in the bottom of your cup and people are trying to fill it, but every time people are filling it, it's taking away a lot more as well. And so, I remember there was a time when I was so stressed in my work, I was so stressed in my own life, I was so unhappy with my own life, that I was looking for my partner to always like do stuff for me. Hey, I feel unfulfilled, and here's something you can do, partner, to make me feel more fulfilled. Here's something you can do to make me happier, to make this relationship better. And while those statements were true, yes, her doing those things could make me feel better, right? But what I didn't realize was I was just this bottomless pit,
Mm.
right? So it becomes a cycle of like, okay, I am fundamentally unhappy, so I'm looking for other people to give me happiness, but because I'm fundamentally unhappy, whatever they give turns to unhappiness.
Yes.
It's poisoned. And
Yeah.
so I'm still unhappy. I ask for more and repeat. I become more and more unhappy. I become more and more jaded. I become more and more of a parasite. She becomes more and more unhappy. She doesn't want to do more and more nice things. When she doesn't want to do nice things, that starts the cycle where I also feel very unhappy. And then it's just a fucking snowball. Right? But what
100%.
we're
It's
saying here is,
exactly
I
what
think,
happened.
a very different cycle where, okay, let's be in charge of our own happiness first, become the overflowing cup first, and you realize that a lot of what you needed from your partner was not actually needed in the first place. So you show up to the relationship saying, here's how I want to help you. Your partner feels safer, more fulfilled. Now, because she feels safer, more fulfilled, she can now have the desire to actually want to help you, to be there for you, to give to you, because you're making her an overflowing cup. She becomes more overflowing cup, makes it easier for you to become an overflowing cup even further. And it's just a very different cycle, right?
Yeah.
And there's such a stark
Yeah.
difference between these two couples, because one is just feedback looping up, the other is feedback looping down. But the hard part, I think, is getting people to go from, hey, don't you see that right now you are a bottomless cup
Mm.
and you need to fix yourself first before you can fix the relationship. I think getting
Without
people
doubt.
to understand, make that switch in their mind was so
Yeah.
difficult. So what do you think was the key events that happened in your own relationship, in your own life, that made you make that switch? Because it's a really hard
Okay.
switch to make.
Yeah. 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 So everything you just described is exactly the journey that we went on, and not just with my partner, but with other relationships and friendships in my life. The key, the key, the key factors to that part of the journey for me. You have a think here. So I think convention tells us that that is normal, that relationships will break down and that you really need to support each other, and that a loving relationship is one where, anything you need, your partner should give to you. And I think there's a lot of conventions in relationships and in marriages, and the dynamics between the man and the woman. And if you have certain traditional, values or upbringing, that can be so problematic and so dangerous if they're not treated correctly, or if the respect isn't there, and if the safety and the trust is continually broken. And you are looking around at your peers and the people around you, and they're saying, well, they're potentially also, not necessarily flagging any negative or bad behavior, and you're in a mindset where you think, well, this is normal, so they must be the problem. And even in a case like mine, where actually it was very clear that a lot of things I was doing were pushing my partner away and were causing big issues, and people did try to speak to me about it, I was reticent to kind of take that on board. And I think the thing that switched it for me was that I went on this journey with you, and like, I can't, all I've thought about really from when you approach to say, look, do you want to do this? Do you want to do a talk about this, about your journey so far? And I think about it probably every day, is my sincere gratitude for what you've created in the program. Like, genuinely, I can't really put it fully into words. I do think it is like a superhuman feat, and I'm not like being hyperbolic. Like, genuinely, what this is kind of crazy, because I like you're fundamentally, you are actually saving lives, and you're reversing lives from really just terrible, awful, living waking nightmares to, when you follow the program and when you go on this journey and when you surrender to it, to creating a life for yourself that is beyond your wildest dreams, and actually being able to create real happiness. So, to loop back and hopefully answer your question, I went on the journey and I surrendered from day one, and I was like, I'm going to go wherever this takes me, and I'm going to this is like my life now. And I went in with the initial with the initial intentions that it was a focus on trying to get my marriage back on track and trying to get my relationship with my partner back on track. And although that's I've never deviated from that in terms of, I still want that. As you get further in, you see that there are layers that that's not to negate the importance of the fundamental reason why you start. But as you get further in, the depth and the depth and the breadth of what you go through and what you learn, and then what you become, who you actually become to make some of those things in your life happen naturally and innately rather than forced. That's the part of it that has made where I've got to that realization. It's actually going on the journey and realizing that there's a whole there's a whole thing existing underneath the surface that is the weight of it, the extent of it, the value of it, the way it affects you and changes your life, almost makes the things that you'd like in life inevitable. So you almost, they're not your focus anymore, because you've found all of the things that are so much more important and so much more enjoyable to work on. And then you just get to do it every day and enjoy doing it every day, which is a gift in itself. But none of this would have felt like a gift or enjoyable to me, prior to joining the program, because my outlook on life was so different and so negative in comparison.
I think if I could summarize that, it's almost like, I think there was a couple of switches that happened. So the first switch is really, hey, so it went from, I am unhappy in my relationship, I am unhappy in my life, and I'm unhappy in my relationship in my life because of other people, because of the world, because of my partner.
Definitely.
But then you start to realize that, hey, I think I'll be unhappy nonetheless, whether my partner was here or not, whether I switch jobs or not, whether I switch careers or not, whether I switch partners or not. I think this fundamental unhappiness is still going to be there. And so that switch happens when you realize, like, I think for me, that switch happened for me when my partner left and I had to be alone in my house by myself for like weeks and even like up to a few months at one point. And I realized that I was unhappy even when she wasn't around, kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, that means the problem is me. But then the other switch, I think, that happens is, I was reading this book about the evolution of knowledge in humankind, right? And how new knowledge gets rejected at first. And if you were to go to the 1870s or 1830s right now, and you were to tell someone, hey guys, you guys are all kind of like feeling quite sick, and your lifespan is not very long, but what if I told you that there's this thing that you can't see, you can't feel, you don't hear about it, you don't know about it? Like with your current technology, I can't even scientifically prove it to you that it exists, but there's things called germs and bacteria, right, that you cannot see, and that's killing you right now, right? And if you talk to someone in the 1830s or 1870s, they're like, they cannot fathom just how much better their life could be if they pasteurize their milk, for example. If they remove kind of germs and bacteria and viruses, and they understand those viruses a lot more, they cannot fathom just how much better and how much longer life can get, right? And it's almost like the same thing with our program too. I think you came in with certain expectations of what you wanted the program to be, what you wanted, like what you could see life to be, but I don't think you could fathom that life could be this good, or
Absolutely.
the path could be this high until you actually do it, right?
Absolutely, 100%. There is no way when before joining you can understand or have any concept or any understanding of how revelatory, how life changing the process can be if you do the work and if you get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, for all those reasons, like you say, because when you look around and you see what the general consensus of what a happy relationship is and should look like, when you join the program, when you do the work, you realize what a truly healthy relationship should look and feel like, and you learn and develop the ability to create that yourself. It's not something, this misconception that we talk about in the program in the early parts, where it takes two to tango, and you both need to be, and ultimately there is categorically and fundamentally a way in which you can create the right environment, you can create the right culture to have the perfect relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that was lost on me until I understood the dynamics of what is taught here and what we do.
Yeah, because you watch Netflix, I think is a great propagator of this, of like the dating shows, right? And I think
Yeah,
right now, if you watch those dating shows, it's very much we either need to meet the perfect person or we don't, right? So because if you don't meet the perfect person that ticks all your boxes, there's no way you can change people. The relationship will be a complete disaster,
yeah,
right? Well, it creates this, I guess, fatalistic approach to relationships where, you know, if the relationship goes well, it's because we picked the right partners.
yeah,
But if it goes badly, then we don't think about our contribution to the environment and how our contribution to their behavior. We think about, oh, if it doesn't work, it's because their behavior sucks or something is wrong with my partner. I picked the wrong partner, right? Not, hey, could there be something I did to invoke this reaction, to invoke this culture, to invoke this behavior in my partner? So with my relationship, for example, too, my partner, when we first met, Samantha, we were immature, we were kids, but she was doing a lot of toxic things, and I could have said there was an alternate reality somewhere in the universe, right, in the multiverse, where I looked at her toxic behavior and I said, I picked the wrong partner, something is wrong with you, goodbye, right? But
yeah,
right now I'm living in the reality of, no, she wasn't doing toxic things because she's toxic. She was doing toxic things because I made the environment so unsafe that she needed to self-protect, self-preserve, and that self-preservation causes toxic behavior. But once I remove that culture of lack of safety, I'm amazed at how untoxic my partner could be. So to think about the number of relationships and the number of people who never get to see that potential, that
yeah.
alternate reality, that alternate path is kind of scary, right?
It's really sad, actually, and it's divorce rates and everything else, especially in the Western world. And then when you look at it and the realities of that, it's a shame, and it's obviously ingrained now in our culture that that's the case. And to your point, as you say about the way the dating show analogy, and how when you look at the way people form relationships, and when you're young and you're inexperienced, it essentially creates a situation whereby if you do get through things and stay together, that is by pure luck. Because, and what would you want? Would you want to have a great relationship by pure luck that could break at any moment if the wrong thing is done or said, or if someone has a bad time? Or would you like to have a relationship whereby you have a confidence and a real belief in that anything that you approach together, you'll be strong, you'll get, you'll be a stronger bond, you'll have a stronger bond formed from it?
Yeah.
Which would you like? Our culture and our approach to relationships does not seem to have any understanding of that being a possibility or something that not widely anyway, a possibility for relationships that they can get stronger as time goes on, and the bond can get deeper, and that you can be closer. It seems to be a foregone conclusion that we accept that relationships break down over time, and maybe you get a bit distanced. And slightly off topic, but funnily enough, there was things that my partner would say throughout, especially towards as we matured a little bit more and we weren't just kids anymore like we were to start with. And we're both quite career driven, and she would say certain things like that equated to interdependence, which is one of the things we talk about in the program that you teach. And and my reaction to them would have been so negative. And like, wouldn't it be great if we want to be with each other? We don't need to be with each other, but we choose to be. We want to be. And she actually innately had a lot of the values and the right approach to healthy relationships. And I saw them as, in my controlling way and in my wanting to hold on to things, and with my inability to have the right approach, would quash them and would not support them. And then I'd come back round now after being in the program for a while, but still very much learning and still wanting to continue on a journey of learning. And when these things come up and I get to talk to her about them and say, it's funny because we learn about this today, and it's kind of what you've been preaching all along. And I for the first time, I want to be able to share with you that, God, do I feel the same? Like, wouldn't that be an amazing way to live a life and have a relationship where you get to have your own lives, but you choose to spend part of it together and be and have and grow a strong bond over time.
Yeah. So you mentioned your son as well. How was your relationship with your son before the program? Like,
oh man, like probably. So I was lucky enough to grow up in a good family with a lot of love. Mum and dad both with a lot of love, and I did great. Have a fantastic role model in my dad, and I suppose to an extent I thought, well, I'm going to be a great dad, and my son's going to learn so much from me, and from in the earlier years, it was all just like everything else in my life that I took on became a struggle, became so difficult, became about me and me wanting my partner to support me and everything else. And for the first few years, the relationship with my son was not good. I wasn't capable of being the dad that I wanted to be in it, and was falling short across all of the parameters and all of the ways in which you could be conceived to be a good father. I wasn't able to be present is one of the things I talk about quite a lot with my family, or with with anyone when we talk about this and some of the changes now. But wasn't able to be present, didn't really want to be there in that moment with him, and just take him in. Was obviously one of the things was never capable of doing, I think, at any point in my life ever, was especially since in the last 15 or so years in this relationship, was the ability I was incapable of building trust and safety for the people around me. And that then obviously went on to my son. So his emotions and the way that he would experience things were a reflection of me, and that's the way I saw it, rather than anything else. And it meant that rightly my partner was also concerned about that, as to what kind of a father I would be, and things from when our son was born, that was that period in time, along with quite a few other things in a 3 or 4 year period, really caused the breakdown, because rightly she was really questioning my ability to be a good dad. And the way that changed just even in this last year, is one of to bring it back to what I said originally, one of the comparisons is my ability to be so present with my son now. Over if I have him for the whole day, I see him every day pretty much. I'm lucky enough to see him every day, every evening after school and after work, and whatever time I have with him, to be present and to to take real joy in building this bond and this relationship with him day by day, hour by hour, and to see the trust and the safety being built at any point when he's having a hard time or when something's happening, and he knows he can come to me and I can do the things that are going to allow him to have all of the right feelings and feel secure and cared for. That's just probably the tip of the iceberg, in terms of my relationship with my son and how that's changed.
You know, as you're describing it, I sympathize with this feeling of like I don't know how to articulate, because even with my wife, right? We thought so long and hard about, hey, what if we had a podcast? Let's just show people what a relationship could be. What if we had maybe a camera following us around a couple of days a week where people can see kind of like what our life is like? But it's like, it's not. But then as we think about these podcasts or these shows, and sometimes like in these podcasts and these shows, we tend to think about like, what are some big moments that we can show? Some of the bigger, exciting, and like bombastic moments we can show, like the Keeping Up with the Kardashians kind of thing, the drama. But then we realize at the end of the day, no, the happiness that we have, right, is something that can never be televised, because we are happy about just the tiny things, the simple things, right? We're happy precisely because we have no drama. We're happy precisely because it's the tiny things. Like, for example, like yesterday, we just got this. So we're doing this health routine, and we have a lot of powders that we take, like mushroom powders and greens powders. And we found that the best way to mix it up is not using a fork and spoon, is using this like a milk frother thing. The milk frother is an amazing mixer. So we got that, and we just like, we're just having this moment where like mixing it together. We're drinking the little green juice together, and that was like, we were just looking at each other and having so much fun. Like, that's so boring TV, right? But that's the moments that we take so much happiness from the small moments like that. It's just amazing. You're so present, you're so happy, you're so content, but it's just not exciting in terms of television.
Isn't that such
it's not drama, Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying, isn't that such a reflection of what society actually rewards? Because the shows that we watch and the indications of what is a cool life to live and an exciting relationship are all based on stacking outcomes. Like, this outcome happened and we recorded it and it was bombastic, like you say. And then what's the next outcome, or what's the next outcome? But a show that glorifies loving the process, creating amazing processes, is pretty boring to watch, boring, but it feels amazing, right?
Yeah, it feels amazing. And like, we had a friend who went to Love is Blind, and she didn't get much screen time because she's kind of like a no drama person, right? Like, her conversations are always very healthy, no gossip. She kind of just like, this is her day, right? She loves to just like kind of wake up and look around, feel content, feel happy, love where she is, love what she's thinking. And that's kind of like what I do too. It's like a lot of my day is just me kind of like meditating and loving where I am, thinking, feeling, sitting on my chair, looking at my dogs, looking at my wife, looking at the house, looking at where I am, thinking about the matters of the world, the issues of the world, thinking about certain clients. Like, how do you televise that? But because she wasn't any dramatic, because she was so content, she didn't get any screen time. The screen time goes to the people who are like creating fucking drama and creating, craziness. And it's so funny to see. So I understand that whole notion of like, I don't know how to articulate it, because I think we live in a world where we don't appreciate the subtle. We don't appreciate contentment, the silent success. We appreciate bombastic, like we said, we appreciate very external manifestations of success and happiness, but we don't appreciate people who are quietly happy, I guess.
Yeah.
which is the true happiness,
Exactly
quiet
that.
happiness.
Exactly that.
You currently describe your relationship as like something that neither of us ever thought would be possible. What aspects of your relationship today surprises you the most? Maybe is the most unexpected to you of how it's
Yeah.
like today?
Okay. So we were completely done, and well, my partner was completely done, you know, and we we probably we've never in 15 or 16 years we've never got along better than we do now. You know, we have a friendship, you know, that and a love that it just hasn't been there and hasn't been present, and is a very different kind of relationship to the one that we ever thought was possible, and that was part of the relationship when we started. To add to all of that, you know, all of the things that you're really scared of that you think conventionally, you know, will be the end of the world, you know, you're able to navigate through the understanding of how important it is to go through the right process and to have respect and love and care and compassion for the people around you. So, and we've navigated all sorts of different things in the last 6 months, being separated, being together, moving out, having space, living together, and so on and so forth. And in our old lives, or in my old life, that every different part of that would have been impossible to manage, and it would have been a cause for huge pain and anguish for everyone around. Whereas now, I feel like anything we decide to do, or anything my partner feels is right to do, I'm like, bring it on, game on, like I'm up for this. Like, but then in other ways, we're closer than we ever have been, and I think um, she feels so happy with the person that I am now in comparison to the person that I was.
It's funny as you were saying that too. It reminds me of the Chinese finger trap again, right?
Yeah.
And you know, so many men, they're so afraid they're so absorbed on that status of what their relationship is like. Did I reconcile or not? I want to get reconciliation, or are we divorced, or are we separated? Like, what are we, right?
Mm.
That they don't understand that, like, the more they try to grab on to getting that and pulling their partner in, or like trying to create some boundaries for their partner, make it hard for them to leave, whatever it is, the more they want to leave, right? But the moment you start saying and have a more evolved thought about relationships, to be like, okay, if you want to leave, because I'm not making you the happiest, and you think you can find happiness somewhere else, then I think it's a good idea for you to go. In the meantime, right, I'm going to work on myself so that I can become the person who can make you happiest, the most fulfilled. And if you want to come back, then great. If you don't want to come back, then that's fine. But if you have no interest in growing your value and growing the brightness of your lighthouse, and you just want to pull someone in because you're so afraid of losing that status, then you're missing the whole point. But for my
Missing the
case,
whole
right,
point.
it's like,
Yeah.
when your partner can see that you are growing and that you're not coming from this controlling place of you own your partner, but you're just saying, hey, my job right now is to grow myself so that will invite you and make you want to come back. And if you want to separate or divorce in the short term, go ahead. That actually made my partner closer to me. That actually made my partner actually see, okay, this is real. This is genuine. This is genuine change. He is genuinely wanting this for my best future, for my best sake. He's not in this from a selfish place of like, oh my God, I'm too scared, right? Yeah.
Definitely. I think for me, truly getting to the point where I realized the kind of relationship I wanted and the kind of relationship I would want with my partner was very, very different to what I thought it was. And ultimately, like you say, in a lot of cases, that creates an inevitability whereby, um, the reconciliation or being back together, um, is 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 far more likely because you're in the mindset that is you are selfless in that approach. Your intentions are good. Um, so yeah, that's something that I couldn't fathom before, that this this that really it's not that you could ever get to a point where you don't want anything for yourself,
Yeah.
and in doing that you create falling outcomes for others.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, the reconciliation is fundamentally very selfish, and it can come from a very selfish place, because you're basically saying here, hey, my partner is saying that she doesn't want to be part of this relationship anymore, but I want to be part of this relationship. So rather than asking the question of like, well, how do I make my partner want to reconcile back to, it's what can I say? What can I do so that right now I want a reconciliation, my partner doesn't want it, but how can I trick and manipulate her into getting
Mm,
what I want, which is
yeah,
reconciliation right now?
yeah,
And so that's the problem I have with the rhetoric with a lot of like avoid divorce or like save your marriage programs, is that it's it's still coming from that selfish place. And as you
definitely.
said, it's going to just at best create a fake reconciliation, because you're not sure, you learn what to do, what to say to get your partner back right now, but you're not really giving your partner the right ingredients, the right changes, the right depth of changes for her to actually want to be there. It's to attract her for the long term. Like nothing has really changed. You
Definitely.
know.
And to that point, I genuinely strongly believe that all of the other programs out there take that approach for a specific reason, because in taking that approach, that is a approach based on what are the right tactics and what are the right things to say and the right ways to act to get your partner back. Um, which is where this whole journey starts, even though we say as it evolves into so much more, but it's just where it starts for a lot of people. Um, it talks to the viewer, based on their own current belief system and what they believe will work. So they don't require them to do much hard work, which is seems a lot more inviting for the viewer. Well, these guys are saying all I have to do is do X, Y, and Z, and then bang, my life is fixed. Whereas what you're saying is that's a topical treatment, a surface treatment for the issue that's gonna, and guess what? It's gonna flare up 10 times worse if you
Yeah.
keep doing it, if you keep using it, because your partner's already savvy to your manipulation and your tactics and your controlling techniques. All you're doing is going away and learning professional versions of that to potentially entice things back. But guess what? Nothing's going to change, because she will see through it, and you will inevitably make the same mistakes and still be the same person. And your approach is it's 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 healing and fixing the problem from the source, to
Yeah.
then essentially no tactics, none of that's required anymore. It's not needed, because you're just coming from your new self, your new outlook on life, and you're saying essentially to your partner, look, this is me now, and if this is what you if this will make you happiest, and if this is the life that you want, I'm here and I'm ready. I'm here for you, and I'm here to support you. And that's the journey I'm going on. And I think the funny thing is that fear of things not working out is so high with people that they'll do anything. But once you go on the journey, you realize that even in not reconciling, it worked out if you do it right. Because the relationship you can form with people is far, it's the depth of it is far more important than just this label of reconciliation.
Yeah.
Creating rekindling or creating amazing, valuable relationships with people is not about the status of those relationships, because relationships will always go, will always
Yeah.
ebb and flow. Healthy relationships will, but having to contort things and control things, so that they're always yours and they're always a certain way, is not a great foundation for anything.
I mean, to be honest, like in my books, your relationship is reconciled. Call it what you want. Like
Yeah,
you have everything people look for in a reconciliation, right? You are having deep conversations, great conversations. You're working together as a team. Um, you are going on a journey together. You're aligned on a goal, right? You admire each other a lot more. You feel safe with each other. Like besides the piece of paper, or besides like formal Facebook friendship, whatever it is that you want to call it, right? I mean, you guys are reconciled. I'm sorry, like it's like Jason, right? It's a good example of this.
yeah,
So Jason,
yeah,
when he joined my program, he got divorced and he never remarried. But his wife is now moved to Houston, next to be near RM HQ, right? We see each other quite often. They're living together. They're happy together. They're talking together. But they just decided, I'm not gonna get remarried.
yeah.
So is that reconciliation or no? I
Yeah,
mean, like,
exactly.
right?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, put it this way. I mean, the relationship we have just now, and I, I think life has the program has created a life that is now abundant with opportunity going forward, and I put that wholeheartedly 100% down to the program. You can't
Yeah.
like, I can't like overestimate that. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
underestimate it. So, but the kind of relationship we already have, even through the journey that we're going on, where there's parts of the relationship already that have reconciled to a point that I never thought they would. We're able to have, like you said, we have created a unit and an understanding and a way of being together that I never thought was possible, and that we'd never done even before this, where we can tackle anything together and we can be a team together. And that feels to me like, you know, the beginnings of whatever comes next.
Yeah. And you also mentioned she said some things. She said some things to you that you never thought you'd hear again, or think you've never heard before. Give me some examples. What are those things?
Yeah. So I think, when someone has rightly written you off, and like, I know their character, no one knows them better than me. I've been with this person, I've been by their side for 15 years, for them to say, you've changed, you really have changed, my God, you know, is quite an amazing thing to hear. And you hear it the first time, the first couple of times, but they're still very much a non-believer, rightly so, because all of everything, every fiber of their being is telling them, don't fall for this shit, don't, this is just another thing, and then over time, as you work on yourself and as you devote your time and your energy to and just wanting to do it because you love doing it more than anything else, and they start to see your changes and really feel your changes. And she said, I had my family round, for like a Sunday like lunch thing for the first
Mm.
time in ages, and we had really distanced family, and we didn't want to bring too many people, get too many people involved, because we decided that was it for us, and that she had decided she wanted to move on and everything else. Like, who is this person? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Mm.
Like, it's like a completely different person, and to start with, I think there's some negative feelings attached to that as well from your partner, because they are frustrated and annoyed and angry that they've had to wait so long for you to
Yeah.
change, and that is a reality. But to hear that, and to hear the acknowledgement and the belief that, what you're doing is actually, and the way she talks about me as a dad is another one, Geoffrey. So, she had no faith in me in that department for in the early years, rightly so. And I think she was very worried about, my ability to be a good father and a good role model, again, rightly so. And the way she talks about me as a dad now, just nothing makes me happier. She literally says like, he is literally the best dad. Like you can't put into words what happens when he is with, I'm not going to say any names, but when he's with his son, you know,
Yeah.
like the connection they have, the way that they look into each other's eyes, the bond that they have formed, the things he's able to do with him, the places he's able to get our son, you know, mentally and through the journey of things with their own relationship just boggles her mind. And she's just like,
Mm.
it's, if she's like, if nothing else, what you have done will be endlessly worthwhile and rewarding for the relationship you will have with your son going forward.
Yeah.
And we now talk about our relationship in that way, you know, that she talks about how, you know, she's really happy that we're able to be able to have this relationship now and to get along in the way that we do, and that she would much prefer it this way than the alternative, where just a few months ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that, you know, she could never have foreseen a future in which we would get along and that we would be a team and that we would work on things together. She just wanted to run a mile because she had already been given thousands of data points to tell her that I was not capable of any of this.
Yeah. You know, last night was actually a late night for me, because I was trying to help out a client that we actually removed from the program,
Mm.
because this client, she was, you know, she joined the program and her partner did not like the fact that she joined the program, right? And we tried to tell her basically, hey, I don't think it's a program your partner is resisting. It's you, right?
Mm.
Like, she doesn't, your partner doesn't think that you can change, that you can use this program to change. And so right now, right, like my best advice to you is prove them wrong, change, right? Do the program, change. And when you change, you will face the paradox of change,
Mm.
which is when your partner and the world will be kind of skeptical and doubtful. It's like, what am I seeing here? I don't trust this yet. I've seen this before. I've seen some changes before, but I'm not buying it yet because she's been burned by that many times. And even after you go through, so when you change, you're going to go through a lot of doubt, a lot of resistance. Keep going. And eventually, when you change for real, when you change for the sake of changing, your partner will see it. And once your partner sees it, just like the same way, Jason, when he joined, his partner wasn't happy with the program, right? James didn't like the program. Your partner seems like maybe not actively disliking the program or disliking your progress or resisting your
Yeah.
progress. That's a
Yeah. Very
natural
passive.
artifact. That's a natural journey that you go through, right?
Mm.
And so at the end of the day, she decided, my partner wants to cancel the program. Okay, go ahead. That's fine with me. But it's like, man, you just don't know what you just did, which is that
Absolutely.
you prove to your partner that once again, here you are saying, this is the program that will make me change. Then the next day, it's like, actually, never mind. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have no idea what you just did.
Well,
It's just,
that's the thing. I think that's the whole. It's a separate paradox of all of it, which is that you can only benefit from the program, and you can only grow day by day from where you are to where you want to be and need to be by fighting every single urge you have inside you to start with, like vehemently deciding that none of your natural thought processes
yeah,
and instincts are good. They're all shit. They're all broken. So just don't trust any of them and just start again from fresh. And it's going to be bumpy and scary, but the one thing you do need to truly believe in is that you're on the right path. You need to give it time. You need to be consistent and you need to work on it. And if all of those things that break along the way are all symptoms of your old way of looking at life.
yeah,
So whenever they break, it's like, oh, well, I've found a new one that broke. That's the bit I need to work on to get rid of, to push forward past this point. And it ends up becoming about discipline and a combination of all things, isn't it? But a lot of it is actually keeping at it, especially in the early stages, which is it is in a lot of ways, it's really detailed, really complex, and an amazing body of work that is simultaneously like rewarding and satisfying and, you know, challenging to get through. Um, but at the same time, it's really, really simple. It's like relax, surrender. You've hit the point you've hit in life. Commit, and let's go.
And there's nothing you can say or do right now to change your partner's mind.
Yeah,
So stop
right.
trying to figure out stuff to change her partner's mind. Just right now, become the brightest lighthouse, become
Yeah,
high value again, and watch as your partner slowly comes back to you. Right,
yeah.
slowly gets rid of the negative confirmation bias. Slowly, her suspicions go down, the doubts go down, because genuine change shines. Right, it shines bright, kind of thing, and it's really easy to feel that. So you discovered my YouTube channel, you said in January 2024, but you didn't join until May. What concerns or what hesitations you think kept you from joining sooner? Because you did say also like, I wish I joined this sooner because
Mm.
things would have been so much better, so much faster if I just joined things sooner.
Definitely, without doubt. You know, I didn't want to give space. I didn't want to give. I didn't want to give time. I didn't want her to explore anything and all of those things. So it just caused more and more hemorrhages and more problems. And I think when I first saw your content, I thought, oh, here we go. I'm used with all of my illusions that I built up in my head. I said to myself, well, for me, you know, all I'll probably need to do is watch watch some of this content, master it, quick learner, and all of this stuff, and I can apply it, and that will probably get me through because I really believe what I'm seeing. I'm really buying into this. So I can probably I've got a busy life and a busy schedule, and I've got this X, Y, Z. So maybe I won't have time, but I soon realized, you know, that they're two very, very different things. As amazing as the intros are, it's like learning how medication works, but not receiving the medication. I don't know if that's a good analogy. And then
I
when you
think,
join the program, you know,
yeah, I think a better analogy or a more apt analogy is like understanding this whole thing, like being a performer, right? Like if you look at a basketball player, for example, you could watch some tapes of basketball and some videos of Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant back then or LeBron James and the way they practice and go like, oh, let me copy that. Let me copy that. You could
mm,
do that, right? But there's a reason why even top athletes still have a coach. Because, you know, when you learn like skills, whether that's hard skills, especially soft skills, to a high level, to a high degree, it's those tiny nuances, right? The tiny things that are unspoken, the tiny things that you cannot even see that makes the big difference. So even in, in like business too, right? I used to watch a lot of videos around business. And I was like, yeah, principles, I got it. Product to market fit. You gotta create a very potent product. You create testimonials and all these things. But then you have all these like very tiny everyday questions that comes in, this everyday problems that comes in that you can never foresee, and sometimes you don't even know what to ask,
mm,
and you need to really engross yourself in the process, in a program that surrounds you with the right people, that surrounds you with the right coaches, that surrounds you with the right environment, that surrounds you with the depth of content, with the depth of experiential understanding for you to get there. If you stay in conceptual understanding, if you miss a few of the little bits and bobs here and there, those little, like, the devil is in the details, right? If you miss those details, it's really hard to get that those results. Was that kind of along the lines of like what you were facing too?
absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things actually was um, the foundation of everything is on you changing. So the foundation of the whole premise of being of creating the life that you want is based on your internal shifts. And to be able to master internal shifts, you need to commit to it like a lifestyle, like it's a part of your life, like a training, but everything in all parts, in living and breathing. And to do that, you have to understand how to do it, and you have to commit to it. You can't do that from some of the content. You can get an understanding of it. You can maybe do some things that are some exercises that help you a little bit, but it's very, very different. And from those internal shifts, everything comes from there. So, and that's practicing like a performer till you become the performer, I suppose. It's like, well, who's the person that you want to become? Okay, so to become that person and to be happy, these are all the changes that you need to make, and they're all internal. It's not tactics, it's not techniques, it's you changing your outlook on life and your belief system to go out and then start becoming the person that you want to be.
Yeah. And I think this whole journey is also a journey of cutting through your own blind spots, cutting through your ego and your sometimes people's denial too. Because I think a lot of people coming in, I think when you came in, you understood kind of some of the victim mindsets, you understood the danger of the victim mindsets. You're successful, you understand how to not be a victim, right? And so conceptually you understand that, but experientially, there were many parts where the victim mindset affected you, for example, that you never were able to see. And that's a part where like you need the right environment, you need the right type of coaching, you need the right type of like curriculum, I guess, to create that switch, as you said earlier in the interview too. To like just going through this journey with us helps you create that switch, see through the blind spots. So people can read all these books. Like I read so many books in the beginning of my career around relationships, around everything about this nature, but when it comes to conceptual understanding, I was a great commentator. Like I can sound smart talking about relationships, but when it comes to actually experientially doing stuff on my own and cutting through my own blind spots and not operating from my blind spots, that was so difficult. That's another ball game entirely, kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Same. Yeah, I think for me as well, I think you kind of mentioned success and such, and I think to an extent, those that have maybe experienced some success in their careers and maybe in their lives by you with a bad approach or a bad belief system or a bad kind of paradigms about things are even more ingrained in the idea that what they're doing is right and that it's yielded great results. So how could it be wrong? So the reversal of that and understanding that you can still do all of those things and you can still be great and successful, but you'll actually be really happy doing it. Yeah. And it will, and your success will explode far beyond your expectations as well, because that's also happening,
Exactly, right? It's like people often come and tell us and say like, well, Jeff, I've been successful in all the other parts of my life, but I haven't been successful in my relationship. And I say to them, what if this whole time you thought you were succeeding because of what you know? But what if this whole time you were actually succeeding despite what you know?
100%. That sums everything up for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you want to talk about this one, but it seems like from what you were saying, your mother-in-law's cancer diagnosis really was one of the triggers that caused you to join. Or maybe the timing was just too perfect where like that happened, but also that's when you just joined the program too. Was that a causational thing? Was there a causational factor there, or was it more a correlational? Was it just like happenstance that it was around the same time, or what was going on there?
So let me tell you about that. So for sure, complete happenstance, completely coincidentally, about a month after joining the program. Oh, well, actually, that's not true. About a month after me understanding the program and seeing your channel and seeing what you do, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. And it hit my partner and her whole family, like a ton of bricks, and purely just out of respect for them and what they've had to go through as a family. I won't go into too much detail other than to say it was, of course, like a deeply harrowing, awful, painful time for everyone involved. I think the poignant part for me, and it purely just distilling and separating out from my journey, and not getting too much involved in the the challenges and the circumstances of anyone else. It was almost as if, so I know that if I hadn't, because I then joined the program in May, we got the diagnosis in January, and then start to understand it a little bit more in February, March. So really by May was when we started to really all get very involved in the journey of my mother-in-law's diagnosis. And the ability that the program afforded me with being able to be a support in all of the right ways to my partner and her family was something that that she's acknowledged, that her family have acknowledged, that she's been so vocal about through the process. And I wasn't perfect. I was still learning. I was still trying to get rid of so many of my old self ways of thinking, doing things. But I was dedicated to growing and becoming the best person I could be, to try and be there and support them all and support her. And if it hadn't been for the program, my ability to support her, my son, her family would have been deeply, deeply inadequate through that time, and would have left lasting scars and pain for everyone, that would have been unrecoverable, but the circumstances, I mean, it's hard to talk about in some ways because I can't play down how deeply affecting it has been to my partner and everyone else. But I do like to take positives from even the most awful of situations now. And if there is one positive to be taken, it's that I was able to be there and to support her, but also that her memory of that time was not made any more painful or any more challenging by my presence, and hopefully the opposite.
Yeah.
And that for me is something I could never have done before.
Yeah. What made you, because you described kind of being in the program, and you treated the program like it was your oxygen, especially in the beginning. What made you fully commit despite being in such a difficult circumstance? Because there are many people who join the program, and they do have busy schedules, and they do have tough stuff happening. But instead of using those difficulties and those challenges to go like, this is all the more reason I need to lean into the program, they say, because of all these challenges, I have been distracted, or I have been pulled away from the program. So what made you lean in rather than lean out? What was in your mind there?
Yeah. I think again, maybe it was a combination of a few factors, but I think I very much had the belief that I think I understood from what I'd seen of the program and what was being taught that this was a get out what you put in situation, and that this required real focus and really converting this to a lifestyle to achieve the kind of goals that I had in mind, the kind of life I wanted to kind of lead. And as you get, just even from the very initial stages of the program, you start to get an understanding of what's at stake. You start to get an understanding of what's possible. And maybe that's the point at which some people assess and say, or even from prior to that they take maybe an easier route and say, well, look, I could maybe move on or have a different life, or, it's not that bad. And inevitably they'll just keep experiencing the same problems in their life again and again with new relationships or at work, whatever it is. So, and it's sad. It's really sad to think about that you've been gifted this kind of golden chalice, this opportunity to kind of not just change your life, but also the lives of all the people around you that you care about, and set yourself on a trajectory, yourself and everyone else, to have a happier life where they are all, and you and everyone else is unimpeded by all of the bad traits, all of the toxic tendencies, and has actually reversed into creating an environment of happiness and joy and prosperity. and even beyond that, not just for you and the people around you, but generationally, because you are instilling that in your family and the people around you, and you're leaving that when you're one day when you're gone, as opposed to leaving a legacy of who is that man? What was the legacy of that man if he didn't change, if he stayed like that? And
I
it's a
know.
scary thing to consider,
Yeah.
And I think
It,
that motivated me. And in the way that you build the program to mythologize the work that we do, to really self-motivate, to be self-sustainable, to push through, that speaks to me as well. I like that challenge where it's like there is no ceiling. So you get out what you put in. It's not a checkbox, it's not like tick, 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 I did it and I can move on to the next. It's like you need to feel the changes. You need to be living that life. And that for me became like the best game I could ever play. It's like
yeah.
suddenly my life became the most enjoyable kind of, most kind of uh, thrilling
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. So I want to do a fun thought experiment here because I've been thinking about this one quite a bit because I've been investigating and dabbling in a lot of AI. I'm investing in a lot of AI tools
Yeah,
too. And
yeah.
the question comes into like, will AI ever replace my job? Right. And my answer, I think, is starting to be no. Because let's say you have this thought experiment where you have an AI earpiece, and this AI earpiece basically takes what your partner says to you, hears it,
Mm.
tells you what to say, and you say it, right? Can that? So if everything you say or do comes out of AI, will that create love? Will that create trust? Will that create reconciliation? I'm interested to hear, what do you think?
It's an interesting question. I have an immediate thought to it, and I might be wrong, but in my immediate reaction to it is that two separate things. Well, I think one, when you start a relationship from scratch with a blank canvas and you haven't broken trust and you haven't caused any issues, I think to an extent, saying and doing the right thing all the time can probably yield a relationship that doesn't go far off track, but isn't necessarily something that is building into something amazing. When you
Or
are in a broken
what
relationship,
if the person you're dating knows that you could be using an earpiece inside of you? Like
well,
the person you're dating knows of this technology, right? And so whenever she
yeah.
goes on dates now, she's looking at like, he's saying all the right things, but I don't know. That could be the earpiece, the AI earpiece that we talked about that's been on the news here.
Well, to that point, yeah, to that point, I mean, regardless of whether it's a new relationship or a relationship you're reconciling or you're trying to fix or you're trying to heal, um, it would, for me, it would have absolutely no value as being, if putting myself in her shoes, it would have absolutely no value to me because I'd want to, you're interested in the way that person feels and what they are able to, the feelings and thoughts they're able to generate organically themselves,
It's
right?
so so philosophically, it kind of opens up the question of like, are you what you say and are you what you do, or is there a deeper consciousness behind the saying and the doing that the trust is built upon, right? And it's kind of like what you said earlier about the whole like you need to make sure the changes within is genuine.
Yeah.
It's something intangible, but I think that thought experiment really helps you understand what the intangible consciousness is, the intangible subject behind it is, because like even if you create an AI earpiece where you say and do the right things all the time, if your partner knows that it is not you, the consciousness, your consciousness saying those things and doing those things, it's
Yeah.
really hard to feel that trust. And it's such a deep conversation. I love having this conversation with my wife, right? Because like I'm like, no, at the end of the day, like if we make a program, if our program is about telling people what to do and say, then yes, it can be replaced by AI. But our program is about allowing people to be, to change their identity, to become like in their very core, in their very consciousness. And AI can never replace that. You know, it can never replace that. It can never replace connection, human connection. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, I'm just checking. I think we've got a bit of latency. Anyway, yeah, sorry, the screen was going a bit funny. Yeah, I think that's the difference between your approach and the other things that I've seen out there, that they're kind of top down, kind of, if you say these things and do these things, and even if I gave you the perfect AI um, kind of co-pilot, you know, that could react and give you the perfect responses. How that is if that's the approach, and you have that choice, and your other choice is um, change and become the person that does that innately and organically. The They're two very, very different approaches, right? And again, one feels to me like you're trying to fix things from the outside to hopefully get through to the inside, but
Mm-hmm.
there's no way in, really.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you fix things from the inside, it's inevitable that they will reflect out on the outside. You don't even have to try; it just comes naturally.
Exactly. And I think also you talk about the mythology of what this program is all about. And so, because, you know, we have to be honest here in saying that this is a lot of work. It is
Mm,
much easier if you took the path of like, just tell me what to do and say. It is much easier for you to just say, fuck this relationship. Let me just find a new one that is easier. Right. So it is difficult. So the question I always ask myself too is like, why is it worth it to go through this? Right. And the best kind of analogy that I have come up with is really, you know, sometimes I feel this dissonance in my head about understanding the gravity of what I do. So here's
mm,
Elon Musk, for example, building rockets, right? Changing the world with electric cars and solar energy. And then there's other guys who are like doing bigger and better things like interplanetary exploration and like saving the world by getting rid of pollution and creating new technologies here and there. And here I am creating an online program to help designed to help people with their relationships, right? Sometimes I feel like, oh, a bit of a, what am I doing here? Could I be doing something bigger? But then
yeah.
I think about this, right? I think about, I was really recently reading a book that just is this guy who went around different hospices, and he just kind of asked the people that this people who are on the brink of death, and they ask them like, okay, what do you want to do more of? What do you regret? What did you like? If you could turn back time, what would you do differently? Not one of them ever said, "I wish I could work more." Not one of them said, "I wish I could get more money." Not one of them said, "I wish I could get more success, more power, more fame." All of them said, "I wished I could have formed better relationships, more meaningful memories from those relationships." And then it hit me. You know, I am helping people to live a life, and we are together in every kindness program. We are solving a problem that a lot of young people will never understand is a problem until it's too late. That is significant. I am solving the problem that is the number one regret of existence, of human existence. Right? And then when you start to see it that way, and you look at the work that's needed to become, you
Mm.
realize, what the fuck is the trade-off? Like, what am I even waiting, considering? Like, this is the number one question of existence, right? Like, once you zoom back at the really, what is the point of life, you realize that all these rat race you're doing of like getting your career and getting more money, getting more success, getting more fame, and all these like arguments that you're having about stupid shit, it's like, what does it all fucking matter? You know what I mean?
This is exactly it. This is exactly it. And I think, you know, we're talking about, so a couple of those points, like in connection to how my journey and what what created that, that commitment to want to do it. One, I feel like, I said it before, but I genuinely mean that I don't think the work that you're doing and the the body of work that you've created, I don't think it can be underestimated just how important it is. I might be, you know, the fact that this kind of approach is not more widely sought after and is not a part of our culture is scary to me, actually. And I know we do feel within the program that this is a very special, very unique thing that is only available to a small amount of people in comparison to the rest of the world. And it does make you start to feel a bit different to everyone else, actually, as you go through, because the way you look at life is very different to a lot of other people that you meet. And occasionally you'll meet some people that have similar outlooks. You've got this amazing outlook on life who might not have been, and they've developed that through life, and it's fantastic, and there's a connection there. But it's no underestimation to say that I think I had got to the point where I did kind of have to kill the old self, or the old self, the old me kind of died, and it was a painful, horrific death to start afresh. And I know that again sounds quite theatrical in some ways, but we are talking about exactly all of those things that when you look back at your life, what are the things that are most important? And this program is giving me the time capsule in a sense to be able to start that process now, so that decades to come, I'll be able to look back and say, as long as I continue this process of growth that I'm on, that I never want to stop. I'll be able to look back and say, I lived a great life. I had a great life. And even with and that's why I say in some ways it's only about this, the reason why you joined in fixing this relationship, to a point where they can trust you and they can be safe and happy, and you can reconcile to a point where you care about each other and love each other and want the best for each other, because that's what any relationship should be in its foundation, regardless of labels, regardless of what you decide to do and the choices that you make from there onwards. But even outside of that, the fact that this program allows you to create a life for yourself that you will one day look back on and say, I'm so proud of that. What a great life I had. When you were destined for the opposite is in that way really like mind-blowing work. We talk about it in the program sometimes, but I'll be completely honest. It even actually frustrates me sometimes that I don't think everyone in the program fully gets that. Just how monumentally kind of life-changing the work is, and to have distilled that into a program that anyone can access with some motivation and discipline, and actually go about changing their lives from the most broken, from the most problematic, through to reversing that to tailoring the kind of life that you want, and creating a balance of beautiful family time and if health is important to you, if the way you eat is important to you, if looking after your body is important to you, work, whatever it is, and creating that for yourself when you couldn't really even manage a day or two without breaking down before. I mean, the extremes of the shift that's possible within your program is, it will forever elude me as to how you managed to do this. I will never really understand. I think about it almost every day. And in all honesty, I was a bit slightly uncomfortable with doing this, because the interview, because I'm quite a private person. But the program teaches us to go outside of our comfort zone. So I'm less private than I used to be. Some stuff with work as well, and visibility but I thought to myself, well, I'm going to really enjoy this. And I have I have such gratitude towards what you've done, that I was like, literally, I don't think there's anything you could ask of me within the context of this that I would ever say anything other than, yes, let's do this. Yeah, but I cannot state strongly enough just how you managed to pull this, to get to build this thing. It's beyond me. The results that you get, the way that you change people's, not just change people's lives, but you change people from they are encaged in their own pain and mind viruses and illusions about life, and they become people that they always dreamed of being. You know,
Yeah.
it's serious work, and as I say, I'll forever be amazed, dumbfounded, and grateful.
I get that question a lot of like, how did you even create this program? It's just, I think when I see a question or a problem or an issue that I feel like people should answer, I obsess about that, right? So it was never about the money for me. It was about like for example, I am really into my longevity, health stuff. And sometimes people look at my lifestyle and the things I eat, the things I do, right? And they're really confused. But for me, I'm not confused because I've hung around older people enough because I do all these like volunteering work, and I talk to all these people who are later in their life, and all of them unanimously will tell you kind of health is wealth, right?
Yeah.
Everything else doesn't matter. Health is wealth. And so unfortunately, us as humans, we're very reactive. We're not really proactive, meaning that health isn't really in people's minds until it's already a problem. By that time, it's too late, right?
Mm.
But before that health problem occurs, health will never be your priority, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it'll only be your priority until you're unhealthy. But by that time, it's too late. And by that time, all you can do is go look back and go, I wish I did it sooner. So I'm trying to tackle those problems, those key existential problems that people are like, this is what people regret. This is what people wish they could have done on their deathbed. And I want to basically look at younger people like myself, like yourself, and go, hey, this is what's on the horizon, right? I know this is not your priority right now, but it will be your priority. But this is a horizon that's been explored by many people and regretted by many people many times. Try not to regret it, kind of thing. And so my whole work has been like, okay, how do I take this area of life that is so mysterious? And it's mysterious because nobody has ever tried to investigate it. Because people, the young people are not investigating it, but the older people are also not investigating it because it's too late for them, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Same thing for health too. So I want to take this, like, how do I investigate this and debunk and deconstruct this mystery so that love doesn't become this like experiment, or doesn't become this like mysterious thing that you either have or you don't, but you can manufacture, you can create it, you can create relationships, great relationship wherever you go. And so it was just bred from that obsession, really, and trying to find the answer for myself. That's
really interesting, actually. I don't know if it's a symptom of the program, or whether I think it probably is, but I started getting into longevity and all of those things, probably as a symptom of joining the program, because you realize you're going to have this, well, you feel like, and you realize you're going to have this great life now. So you want to live it and
forever,
you want to be healthy and live it forever. And God, my outlook was so different. I used to get on a plane and be like, oh, I don't really care what happens if this is my outlook, I really wasn't enjoying things. And now obviously I love longevity and I love looking into it. And there's a quote that comes to mind, Steve Jobs, when he was giving one of his final addresses, I think at Stanford, to the students on their graduation day. He said, just as a anecdotal note, take your food as medicine, or you'll be taking your medicine as food.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, and that links to, fitness and health and the work that we do for the mind, the mind, the body, what you put in, what you take out. And you got to, if you're lucky enough to be able to start that journey early, then great, because if it's too late, You can't reverse it.
You can't
And
reverse
and none of those things meant much to me until I saw what was possible, until I realized what was possible. And then when you get a glimpse of what's possible, you want to keep going, and you want to keep improving, and you want to keep being, creating a better life.
it. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So among the key takeaways you listed, so we talk about a bit about like processes versus outcomes, thinking antithetically, untethering, right? We talk a bit about even noble intentions of how do you should see a relationship and how you should see reconciliation and whatever it is. But we also even talked about the concept of like paradigm shifts, reinterpretations, right? I mean, which concept do you think created the most life-changing switch or the most positive change for you? Like, if you could, because we learned so many concepts, but if you could distill it down to like one or two concepts that was like, okay, if I was in an elevator with someone and I had 5 minutes or less to really tell them about one concept, which one is it?
Yeah, no, I mean, let me have a think about this. So, yeah, okay. So I've mentioned it before, and I think I mentioned it quite early. So, as you said, switching your mindset from being obsessed about the outcomes and what you feel you need in life to be happy. If I get that next outcome, it's going to make me really happy. And then inevitably you get it and you're miserable and nothing changes. Switching from becoming process driven and loving the process, loving the journey. So loving the climb and the hike of the mountain, and taking like deep enjoyment and fulfillment and nourishment from the journey. And then you're like, oh, we got there, and this is cool. Oh, we did it, amazing. And really being able to appreciate that too. And then, but knowing that really most of the enjoyment and most of the learning and the growth was in the journey. That was something I could never have appreciated before. I think another part so also to add, my anxiety and stress levels have literally like hit rock bottom since joining the program, or a couple of months in, and it's probably led to all sorts of other things that are beneficial for my health and my outlook and everything else. But one of the other things is untethering. So being able to untether from from the neediness and the connections with other people, and certain outcomes, but let's say relationship based, is such a reward and a win-win for you and the other person involved.
Mm-hmm.
Not needing to and requiring so much from anyone else, and just being able to untether and focus on yourself, and in turn reward back and give back is another key one. And I think one of the main things for me, I've spoken about the paradigm shifts and the changes, but just going through that, and going through being able to do reinterpretations of all of the things that have been holding you back your whole life, and really, really understanding what they are, where they come from, doing the work yourself to do that, has been amazing. And probably the very last one, when I think about it, is getting to a place as a person where you feel like everything you do is coming from the right place. And it's something we call in the program noble intentions. And really being able to kind of know that your intentions in anything that you're doing and you're saying are really noble and really good. And they might be perceived the wrong way sometimes. They might be misunderstood, but that's okay. It's not an attack on you. It's a journey that you have to go on, and to be proud that your approach is the right way, and the right way, and coming from a good place. All of the things that I was just completely incapable of doing before, really.
Yeah. So Mark, I want you to not look down in your notes because I know that right now you're reminding
Yes,
yourself of
sorry, I
things,
was.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
because people are like gonna use this to be like, oh, he's reading from a script. This is scripted.
I was thinking that. I was thinking that.
I'm like, yeah. So
yeah, I made some notes specifically on that point because sorry. Yeah.
I know, but like, I think the big picture of this is like, I think the biggest kind of change for you has been like, for example, uh, the other day, right? So my partner has these moments in her life where she gets like this flash of ideas, and she goes to like some cabin somewhere for like an indefinite amount of time, and she uses that to just kind of think and ponder
Mm,
and let her mind kind of wander around without me being there, without daily chores, etc. Right?
yeah,
And the other day she said that to me, and I said to her, "Okay, let me know." And my first instinct was to say, "Let me know what you need from me." Right? So it's approaching that relationship from the standpoint of like, I'm already an overflowing cup, and I feel
yeah,
overflowing because I am untethered. I don't need you to make me happy. I need myself to make me happy. I need the process to make me happy. I rely on the process to make me happy, right? And I'm happy with the process. And when you become this overflowing cup, even when you're presented with the case like that, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna go to this cabin. I don't know when I'll be back. I need to think, and not say, well, here's what I need from you. Well, here's what, like, I'm scared of letting you go because like, here's what you're taking away from me, kind of
yeah,
thing, right? You're taking away
yeah. I
like
mean,
some companionship, some whatever it is. But the first instinct for
totally.
me is to
Oh,
go like, well, okay, great. You need to think. You need to figure out your ideas. You feel like you need to do this. How can I help you
mm,
get there faster? What can I do to help you there?
yeah.
That's like a different place to be, you know?
Totally, totally. Like, can't imagine ever have been, and I think it all boils down to, are you able to think healthily? Are you able to think in a way that is healthy and considerate? Because, and are you so, are you under such an illusion that you think you are thinking healthily, but actually your very thoughts, your very beliefs are toxic and
Mm.
problematic for the people around you? And now when a situation like that was to arise for me, bless you.
One more. Oh, one more. Sorry, that's it. Okay.
Bless you, bless you. Uh, should that arise for me, probably my first thought, like my reflexive thought would be, how cool is that? She shared, that someone would share with me that that's how they're feeling. They need some space, they need some time, they want to go off and have a couple of weeks or some time because they got some. It's like they're, they're telling me that, and to react, and the reaction is like and if it was to be like that, they would say that with no fear, that they'd be like, oh, I'd quite like to do this, and my reaction would be like, that was amazing. They weren't worried about telling me, so I must be creating a really cool dynamic here. That they feel so safe and so cool to do and say whatever they want. Because isn't that what we all really want? Isn't that more amazing than anything that's based on control or reciprocity?
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And that's not a cool relationship, I don't think.
Mm. Mm. It's like, so people who are like going through divorces, separation, or even affairs right now, right? I want
Yeah.
you to think about this, okay? If your partner says to you tomorrow or today, or maybe they have said this to you, I want a divorce. I want to separate. I want to move out. I want some space. I want to consider other relationships. Are you going to come from the place of selfishness and fear, where you say, okay, this is what's being taken away from me? Or, so think about how selfish that is, right? It's like your partner is finally telling you, here's what I really want. And you realize that what she wants goes against what you want, right? And because giving her what she wants no longer serves what you want, you get scared, you get insecure, you get controlling, you get possessive, you get angry, versus you being able to say, hey, If a divorce is what you need, if a separation is what you need, if a space is what you need, let's do it.
Yes.
How can I help you? The goal again is giving you what you want. The goal again is making you happy. The goal again is serving your needs too. And not only can you say, okay, if this is what you need, great. And then say, how can I help you? Beyond that, how can I help you get what you want even further, even faster?
Yeah,
right?
100%. I mean, it's very clear once you go through and you start to create the life that you want. It becomes very clear that you want to, when you're operating out of confidence and when you're operating out of self-belief and high self-esteem, that you want everyone around you to make their own decisions for themselves, and you want them to decide whatever it is they want to do, and that any type of, for me, I would have when you're saying I don't want you to do that, or I don't think that's right, or that's not how relationships should be, or you can't go and have your freedom, or this, that, and the other, make your own decisions. That's coming out of insecurity. That's coming out of a deeper knowledge that there's not valuing yourself and fearing that you're going to lose something. But ultimately, when you build yourself to the point where you are really happy with yourself and you have confidence in yourself and your self-esteem is where it should be, you don't worry about that anymore, because ultimately you realize for healthy relationships, people should be allowed to do whatever they want, but they should decide that they want to do the certain things that align with what you would like to do.
Exactly. And I think this makes a lot of people very scared, I think, because I think you're basically saying, right, I'll give people enough freedom so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they won't want to. That's basically what you're saying, right? But then, like, what people fear is like, okay, if I give my partner the freedom to do whatever they want, what if what they want is to leave? What if what they want is to not be with me? What if what they want is to be a controlling bitch? What if what they want is to be a gold digger? What if they want is to be cheating with me, cheating against me, right? All these things. And it's like, okay, if that's what she wants, like if you feel like if you give her enough freedom and that's what she ends up wanting, it's either two things and only two things. Either you weren't as bright of a lighthouse as you thought. So now, right, imagine if North Korea opens its borders and everyone fucking flees like rats, right, away from the country. Then North Korea needs to ask one or two questions, right? One is, okay, either there's something wrong with all the citizens, right? They were given everything they needed, everything a human could want from a nation, but despite being given everything they want, they were so fucking stupid to realize what they want. They're so fucking ungrateful that they fleed like rats once you open the borders. That's one conclusion. The other conclusion is you say, well, if people are fleeing like rats once they open the borders, that must be because I don't think I was as valuable as I thought I was. Right? So if you take the first conclusion here, which is like, they're fucking idiots. The irony behind that is, how much safety do you think you could have created if that's what you think about your citizens, if that's what you think about your partner? Like, think about it. If you think your partner is so fucking stupid, so fucking immoral, so fucking animalistic, no devoid of ethics, that once you open the borders, they'd be like, oh, I'm going running crazy. How much safety do you think you could have created? So how much do you think you were that valuable? That's the paradox that people don't see, And so if, let's say, you're in this position right now where you're scared to like give your partner that freedom and you are scared of opening your borders for what might happen, I think you need to take a long, hard look at yourself and go, was I was I just overestimating my value this whole time? Are there issues? Are there flaws? Are there deeper underlying things I need to work on that this is revealing to me here? And everything starts from that humility. Without that humility, that it all starts with you, nothing else can happen because you just will never see it, kind of thing.
Definitely. And I think a part of it that springs to mind for me from my journey with it is also about maybe standards. Like, what are your standards? Because if you want to settle for a relationship where there is no real trust being built and there is no real safety and there is a certain amount of control, then you will never really create happiness, not meaningful happiness. You will never really feel that love from a partner. But if you want to say, no, my standards are higher, I want an amazing, fantastic relationship. I want us to have all the choices in the world, have everything at our disposal, but we choose every time to come back to each other because this is where we want to be. Doesn't that sound far more interesting, far more exciting?
I think you hit it on the nail there. I think, especially, I don't know about your generation, but my parents' generation, right? And before that, people kind of married for utility mostly, right? The concept of marrying for love is a very new thing. It's a new concept, a few generations old, kind of thing. And I think once people experience love from a place of want rather than love from a place of need, once you experience that, you're like, this is the best. Like, you will do any, like if there was like a brain device where I can implant in people's heads to be like, okay, like, for example, if you want to experience ecstasy, you take ecstasy. You can take a drug that makes you go, this is how ecstasy feels like, and this is how this feels like, right? And it opens your brain to a new level of existence, to a new level of like living that you never thought was possible. But if there was a pill or there was a helmet that I can put on your head and say, this is what it feels like to experience a love out of want, I bet you people, when they take their head that hat off, they'll go, give me that thing. Fucking give me that thing. What the fuck am I doing? Like, how have I been living without this whole time? What the fuck? Like this.
Without doubt. It is one of the most amazing things that maybe far too few of us ever experience and understand the value and the ability to create that in an environment whereby others can surrender to that and want that as well. And we use an analogy sometimes in the program about presents as well. Like, if someone's going to give me a present but expect something back, and there's like, it has some kind of tacit terms to it or some strings attached, then I'll probably be like, the value, well, to start with, the value of that present goes way down. It's like, there's small print here, but if someone wants to give me something just to give it to me because they're just overflowing, they're abundant, and they just love me and they just care about me, and they put this time and effort into thinking about what I would like, and that's the love, that's the care every day, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Then isn't that a lovely thing?
Yeah, it's like if my wife, like last night, my wife gave me this like a cup of tea before bed. I'm becoming more English by the day.
Definitely.
Like, she gave me a cup of tea. Like, if she gave me a cup of tea from that place of fear, like, oh, I better give him this because like I want to make him happy, and if I don't, then shit will happen, kind of thing. Versus her giving me a cup of tea to be like, hey, I know you didn't ask for this, but I wanted to give you this. And I noticed that like you have a hard time sleeping sometimes or falling asleep. So and you had a stressful day today. So I want to give you this cup of tea. No one told me to. I don't feel obligated to, but I want to, right? Think about how you would receive both kinds of love. Now, that's just a cup of tea. Multiply this for every single event, every single word, every single action. You can imagine even sexually, right? Like sexual intimacy wise, like, you know, sorry to be crass, right? But like getting a blowjob because you paid for it, or like you obligate someone to do it, versus like your partner going like, I want to do this. It's a very different experience, right? Very different experience.
Well, look, 100%, right? And I think even like the more intimate the interaction, the more personal, when it comes from the real place, like the more mind-blowingly, you know, of value it is, you know, that you're, and when someone chooses to do something because they want to, and they derive huge amount of enjoyment from it and huge amount of arousal or whatever it might be, what nicer feeling is there than to witness that and to experience that yourself, and to know this isn't out of duty, this isn't out of some kind of expectation societally or relationships wise. And these are all the things that we fell into, that is to, and often the things that kill relationships, because this is the constructs that we live in, that the expectations, and like you say, especially from like a 1950s mentality of like men go out and work and make money and then women stay at home and do this. And the world is different now because everyone can, you know, there's still more challenges for women than there are for men, but nonetheless they strive through and create amazing successful lives for themselves if they wish to. And if you're trying to apply old kind of Victorian mindsets to relationships that are in the modern day, you've got no chance, my friend.
No chance, yeah. We'll end with this kind of like example, right? It's like when I first started my relationship, I was trying to create the outcome so badly. Like, for example, you know how there's a research that says like healthy couples have sex 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
And I used to force myself and my partner and the relationship to get there, right? Like, we need to hit that number. And ironically, whenever I try to hit that number, I don't hit the number, right? Because like sex becomes such an obligation, such a chore for both of us, that like naturally the desire goes in less and less, and it just gets harder and harder to hit that number.
Yeah.
But then now, as soon as I stop trying to hit the number, I just love the process of creating safety, love the process of flirting with my wife, love the process of creating admiration and all these different layers, right? We're hitting that number and we're exceeding that number without even trying to hit the number.
Of course.
And so it's like exactly what you said about the outcome and process, right? It's like, ironically, when you try to get an outcome, especially a falling outcome, the further you go away from it, the less likely you are to get it. But if you just learn to enjoy the process, ironically, the outcomes will fall to you in more abundance than you ever imagined.
Without doubt. And I think when you spend some time in the program, that becomes, how do I say, like the curtain gets pulled back for you on that one, that you realize that is behind everything that happens in the program. You know, that you are not creating individual specific, you're not tailoring what you do to try and create individual specific outcomes. You are being to create a huge knock-on catalytic effect on all of the rest of your life, that where the outcomes just come in like flying in, and you're kind of like,
you have a different problem now where you're like, it's like this, right? It's like, are you a frog that's like tries to stick its tongue to like get one fly, or are you the what is that, the fly, what is that, the moth,
the Venus flytrap,
or like what is that thing that you light up? It's like a heat, and then all the bugs come to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
like
it's like that, right? It's like, so
if
you try the outcome approach, you're like, you can only get one fly at a time, right? But then if you just become this, what is that? I don't know, fire or whatever, like
like a moth to the flame, like a lamp or lantern,
It's like, oh my god, I have so much more than I thought.
Exactly. And also you're passive, you're not making, you're just being you, and all of these things are coming to you, whereas instead of like, trying to go out there and catch your outcomes. And it's different. And also your whole relationship with outcome versus process changes massively. Like it used to define my day or my week or my year if certain outcome came in, and I'd really celebrate that outcome for like a couple of days. I'd be like, amazing, we got that win, or we did that thing that we've been wanting to do. And then I'd like, dip down, after that point, and feel really low and feel really, what's next. And these days I could have a terrible result, something terrible could happen, or I could have a terrible week. But I'm like, at the weekend, I'm like, oh, that was a great week, because I was really like quite just interested in like the way I reacted to that, or how did I skirt through it. Like I just could never have done that before. Like, and that is, you just feel amazing for being able to be a certain way, not for the results. And then what happens is after a bit of time is you being that way just turns all of the forces of nature in the world to your favor. There's no other way of putting it.
Yeah. This is actually like promise the last thing. Like, how like a lot of people who are up into manifestation these days, right?
Yeah. Sure.
This is really it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at pure OG classic ideas behind manifestation, it's not this like with the bastard version that people think of it. It's like wish it and it will happen kind of thing, right? It's not like that. Positive thing and it will happen. It's effort and surrender to the process. Learn to love the process, because you will do the process more, and when you do the process more, out of that love, more outcomes will fall to you. So manifestation is not this magical thing. It's a very practical thing, actually. And so we'll end on that note. But Mark, thank you so much for this time. I had so much fun. I felt like we went into really deep territories here. And guys, if you want to explore the program that Mark is talking about here, I'll leave a link for you down below this video to the masterclass link. If you'd like to apply, please make sure you pay attention to the application process, because we are very selective of who we enroll. Because just like Mark said, we are trying to really ensure that everybody who comes into the program, they can contribute very positively to this overall community, this overall thought process, this overall journey, because it's so hard for people to change in a fundamentally massive way when they're not surrounded by the right people, surrounded by the right thinking, surrounded by in a way that changes their norms. So we want to make sure that everyone who joins are in this full on, right? And so be sure to pay attention to the application process. And so it'll be a masterclass link at the end of the masterclass. So in the masterclass, we'll show you kind of how the program works. And then at the end, we'll show you how to apply if you want to. All right. Mark, thank you so much for this. Let's keep seeing
My pleasure.
the program.
Thank you. Yeah.
Don't stop. Never stop. Make it your identity. It just goes higher and higher from here. Trust me, bro.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Geoffrey. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed that too. Thank you.
All right, Mark. See ya. Bye.
Cheers.